The most common question that I am asked by people moving to Boise is Boise becoming liberal because of all the Californians who are moving into our state? When my clients move to Idaho, I always ask them, what is it that brought you to our state? I mean, what made you leave your family, your friends, everything that's familiar to you behind, and made you come to a state that doesn't even have a national football team? And 100% of the time, across the board, all of my clients say that they are leaving the three Western states because they are tired of the crazy liberal policies in those states: Idaho, Washington, and California. So literally all of my clients say that they are moving to Idaho as political refugees. They're moving into our state not in order to change the state, but because they love what our state has to offer. Now, I was just looking at some statistics relating to this specific question this year, and guess which state out of all 50 states has the highest number of Republican voters who are moving into Idaho? You guessed it, California. According to the Idaho Secretary of State, only 10% of all the people moving into Idaho from California are Democratic. The other 90% are Republican or have other affiliates, Libertarian, etc. 14% of all people moving from Oregon are Democrat. The other 86% are Republican or other, and only 12% of all Washingtonians identify as Democratic. The other are Republican or others. So according to the Idaho Secretary of State, the people moving into Idaho are overwhelmingly conservative Republican voters. The fact is, Idahoans like how Idaho is, and people are moving here because of what it has to offer. People like that our state is fiscally conservative. We're balancing our budgets. We're not teaching our children critical race theory and other crazy ideas. And let me give you a couple specific examples of what I think is drawing people to our state. Number one, people like that our state is taking the U.S. fentanyl crisis seriously. As you know, our entire nation, the U.S., is facing a fentanyl crisis, and that's a direct result of the open border policy that we have on the U.S.-Mexico border. So our governor has addressed that issue head on here in Idaho. He's started a number of programs here to tackle fentanyl use. One of them is Operation Esto Perpetua. He's also started a number of fentanyl awareness campaigns, and we've even sent some of our own state troopers down to the U.S.-Mexico border to help the U.S. border police there. Financially, people like that our state is doing very well. We just finished this past year with a $100 million surplus in our budget, and that's been the case over the past several years. We've had literally billions of dollars in budget surplus, and our governor has actually given some of that money back to Idaho residents. I just got my property tax bill just last week, and this coming year, my property taxes are half of what they were last year. I kid you not. And that's a direct result of the budget surpluses. The government has taken some of that money and he's reduced Idahoans' property tax bill. So I was quite impressed with that. We've also had the strongest economic recovery here in Idaho after COVID out of all 50 states. Our credit rating was upgraded to a AAA a couple years ago and was just renewed just this past year again. So we have excellent credit here in the state of Idaho. Educationally, we've just rolled out a new history curriculum in our schools here in Idaho called The Story of America. And this curriculum really embraces patriotism, and it instills a sense of pride about some of the successes that our country has had. We've also had some stains on our history, so it doesn't sugarcoat those either. It tells it from an honest perspective, but it definitely tells the story of America as it is. From what I could tell, it looks very good, written by a guy called Bill Bennett, who was Ronald Reagan's Secretary of Education. And I think people like Idaho's approach to foreign policy. Our governor has been a very vocal critic of Biden's open border policy, and he's also been a very strong supporter of Israel. So overall, our state stands for conservative American values, and I think that has been a very strong pull for a lot of the people who are moving here. Second most common question that I'm asked is, what is the weather like here in Boise? Now, I usually like to think of the weather in terms of 3, 3, and 6. We usually have about 3 months of cold, 3 months of hot, and about 6 months of cool, warm weather. We have about a 90-degree swing in temperatures between the winter and the summer. So it rarely gets below 10 degrees and rarely gets above 100 degrees in the winter. But let me give you just a quick rundown of what each season is like. So in the spring, I like to describe spring as nice and fresh. It's really fresh weather in the spring. But it's not always clear exactly when winter has ended and when we've actually come into spring, because it can seem like it's warming up and then it might cool down for a few days or maybe even a few weeks towards the end of the spring. The last snowfall is usually in March, but it can still be a little bit chilly in April as well. You might get a few flurries here and there in the first week or so of April. The temperatures can average in March between 36 to 55, so 35 to 55 in March. April, they average between 40 to 65, and then in May, warming up again, anywhere between 50 to 75 degrees. And usually throughout the spring months, I'm still wearing a medium-sized jacket and long pants. Summertime I like to describe as playtime in the water. Everybody loves the summer. We all live for the summer. Typically, it's still a little bit chilly in the mornings in June. So I may put on a sweater for 1 or 2 hours in the early morning of June because it does cool down at night here, which is nice. You open up your windows and that cool air will come into your house. So you're not running your air conditioner 24/7. July, though, is definitely the hottest month. That's when my air conditioner is running the most. As I said, it's not usually running all night because I'll have my windows open and that cool air will cool the house down. But it's not unusual to have a few days in a row of over 90-degree weather in July. We don't usually get like 30 days of over 90-degree weather. That's unusual. Typically, we'll get 3, 4, maybe 5 days of 90-plus degree weather. It'll cool down for a couple days and then it'll heat back up after that. Now, the swimming season begins basically mid-June and ends at the end of August. Come September, you're not swimming anymore. It's not really warm enough for you to want to get into a pool. So my parents, for example, they have a pool and they open it up on Memorial Day and they close it on Labor Day. So it's exactly 3 months of swimming. Come September, the water's already cooled down a little bit and it's maybe in the 80s or high 70s. So you're not really wanting to get into the water anymore in early September. Fall's just really pretty here. Boise's the city of trees, so we get some really nice colors with the leaf changes. We get some really nice yellows, oranges, reds. We have really clean air and some scattered showers, usually the end of September, early October. Usually the first snow will fall in the mountains the first week of November, right during elk hunting season, and then we'll get the first snow in the valley, usually the end of November or perhaps the very first week of December. Average temperatures in the fall can range from 50 to 80 degrees in September, 45 to 65 degrees in October, and 35 to 50 degrees in November. And the winter I like to describe as cold with some snow. Now, Boise kind of has a reputation of having harsh winters for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but it's not really true. I have a van that is not four-wheel drive. I don't have chains for it or studded tires, and I am fine for the entire year. There's maybe 2, maybe 3 days out of the whole year where I might think, it might be nice to have maybe some studded tires. But generally speaking, all the roads are plowed almost immediately. The only potential problem you might have is in your local subdivision. They don't always plow the roads immediately, so you may have a day or two where you're slipping just a little bit just to get out to the main roads. But you're driving throughout the entire city of Boise, no problem. They salt the roads, they plow the roads almost immediately. Typically, the snow season here in the Treasure Valley is mid-November or late November through mid-February. Over the past 70 years, we've had an average of 20.1 inches total for the year. So it's not all that much, really, if you think about it. We may get one snow, big heavy snow might be 5 inches of snow. So if that's the case, that's about a quarter of the snowfall that you can get in one, quote, heavy snow. Temperature-wise, on average in December and January, we average from 25 to 38 degrees. February, the average temperatures range from 30 to 45 degrees, and then March heating up just a little bit more, 36 to 55 degrees throughout the month of March. The shortest day of the year is December 22nd, and this year looks like the sun is set to set at 5:09 p.m. and will rise at 8:13 a.m. So that works out to be 8 hours and 56 minutes of sunlight on the shortest day of the year. The worst part about the winter is the inversion, which we sometimes get in December and January. And let me explain what that is. Usually the higher up you go in altitude, the colder it gets. In an inversion though, it's actually the opposite. So you get a cold layer of air that is trapped under a warm blanket of air above it. So the higher up you go, the warmer it gets. And what this leads to is fog. So sometimes for a few days or maybe even a week in December and January, we get a gray layer called the inversion down in the valley floor. Thankfully though, it doesn't stick around for weeks and weeks on end, and it usually clears up within a few days or maybe a week. So summarizing the weather here, it's cold in the winter and hot in the summer, but in neither of those seasons is the weather really extreme. You don't have 2 months of really heavy snow and 5-degree temperatures, or 75 days of over 100-degree heat in the summer. We have all 4 seasons here, and you really do feel the weather change, which I think is nice. Before I move on, if this video has been helpful for you, do me a favor, hit the like button. It helps the video to go out to more people like you, and it helps me out as well. Thanks. Another question I'm frequently asked is, what is the healthcare like here in the Treasure Valley? Now, we don't always get these kinds of people that move here. Sometimes we also get these type of folks. And so obviously these types of folks are gonna be a little bit more concerned about healthcare and what it's like. And the answer is that the healthcare is actually pretty good here. Both of my parents are retired. They're both on Medicare, and they both really love the healthcare services. In fact, my dad just had his hip replaced earlier this year, was very happy about it, was done here locally in town, very good doctors. And I'm also told that they have good healthcare coverage for people with special needs. My parents have some friends who have a special needs child, and they were looking to move to Washington. And then when they actually moved to Idaho, they discovered that Idaho had services that aren't available in other states for people with special needs. There's 2 main healthcare systems in the valley, St. Luke's and St. Alphonsus. St. Luke's is the biggest, founded in 1902, and they basically have everything. Emergency department, cancer treatment, special needs, diagnostics, all of that. Between the 2 healthcare systems, St. Luke's and St. Alphonsus, you can pretty much treat everything in the Treasure Valley. If you have a really specialized procedure or something that's really complicated, they may send you down to Salt Lake City or Seattle, but that's really pretty rare, honestly. They pretty much can treat anything here in the Treasure Valley. There's also a bunch of urgent healthcare clinics scattered throughout the valley. At almost every stoplight, you see one. So if you're living basically in Boise, Nampa, Caldwell, or Meridian, you're gonna be about 20 minutes or so from any major hospital. Now the question everybody wants to know is, will house prices go down here in the Treasure Valley? Now I hope so, but honestly, I'm not very optimistic about it. I work with a lot of buyers, so I would love it if house prices came down. It would seriously help out a lot of my clients, but I haven't been very impressed with the price drops that we've seen over the past year and a half. I'd love it if we could get down into the low 300s for a starter home here in Boise. But the fact is that last month, the median went up again $5,000 here in Ada County. We ended the month of October with a median of $539,990. And if we zoom out for a second, from the low back in March, the median was $483,000. We've come up 11% since then. And during that time, the mortgage rates have also come up about a percentage or a percentage and a half. The beginning of the year, mortgage rate was about 6.5% for a 30-year fixed. Today, it's at about 7.5, 7.3%. So we've had an 11% increase in the median, along with a 1% increase in the mortgage rates. And the reason that has happened is because our supply is still very low. We just finished the month with 2.4 months of inventory, and that is down from where we were a year ago. A year ago, we had 2.77 months supply of inventory. So as the interest rate begins to inch its way down over the coming year, I think we'll see more buyers jump back into the market. And because we have low supply, I think, sadly, we'll probably see prices work their way back up. And another question that people frequently ask me is, are people friendly here in the Treasure Valley? Now, I know it's a hard question to answer objectively because how do you quantify that? I might think people are friendly, but then you might meet somebody tomorrow who's having a bad day and they might give you a generally bad impression of everybody here. So I know it's hard to objectively answer that, but nevertheless, let me give you an experience that I had a year and a half or so ago that I really do think is a general reflection of what people are like here in the Treasure Valley. About a year and a half ago, I was driving with my family in our van, and we had some car trouble, so we had to quickly pull off of the freeway. And as we're getting on the off-ramp, the engine overheats, so we had to quickly pull over. So we're all 6 of us standing on the side of the road. It's a hot summer day. The engine's, steaming. It's all hot. And I had 2 people stop to ask us if we were okay. One of them had a bottle of water. He's like, hey, it's a hot day. Maybe you and your kids can drink some water. Don't want you to overheat. What can I do to help you? As I'm talking to this guy, a few minutes later, another person stops, and this guy has 6 smoothies in his hand. I kid you not. He said he was a manager at Tropical Smoothie, and he said, I saw you guys on the side of the road, so I quickly drove over to my store, made you 6 smoothies. It's a hot day outside. I know you're having a bad day. Hopefully this can, make the day a little bit better. And I was totally floored. I mean, when does that ever happen? And I generally think that would never happen in any other capital city in the United States. Now, I've asked a lot of my clients what they think people in the Treasure Valley are like, and the overwhelming majority of all of my clients is that people are friendly here. Listen to what my clients had to say about the friendliness of people after being here for about a year and a half.
We were thrown off guard. People are so friendly. People are waving at you. We're driving down subdivisions. People are waving at you, which you don't usually get. You stop and talk to somebody, and they're just super friendly. The clerks, just wherever you go, people, it's just a different vibe. People are just totally different. It's not a rat race. It's not fast.
So if you want to hear the rest of what they have to say about their first year of life here in Idaho, you can click on the thumbnail at the end of this video. But I also wanted to ask my friend, who also is a local here, what he thinks about people. And he unequivocally said, yes, I think people in the Treasure Valley are very friendly. And he gave 2 examples. He said, if you're driving in traffic, you put your blinker on, people are going to pull over. They're going to let you pull in. Also, if you say hi to somebody in the morning, they're going to be very friendly with you when they chat with you. And then I was thinking also, I've been downtown and talked to city workers quite a bit. People are always very friendly there. The DMV is typically thought to have some of the grumpiest people. I found them to be very nice, very helpful. And then also City Hall or planning and zoning, they've always been very friendly, very helpful. So my own personal experience is that people are very friendly here. That's what my clients have also said, and that's what my friends have said as well. Thank you for watching. If you have any other questions about real estate or life here in Idaho, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help.